Welcome, my friends, to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. I'm Deborah Deras, your host. Each week, you'll hear from top experts in the speaking industry who will share their insider secrets. Learn what works and what doesn't by hearing real stories of success and failure. My intention is to be your speaking coach to help you reach your goals faster and easier. I believe you are the messenger for the message. So thanks for tuning in, and let's get started. I am going to give you the best gift of your life, because if you do not already know my guest, after you listen to the show, you're going to know him. You're going to follow him. You're going to be his biggest fan like I am. And he is one of the most kindest, generous people that I have met. I mean, I've been speaking for probably 16, 17 years. It's all a blur. But it's rare that I meet someone that is just so amazing on stage, but then so great off stage. And I was like, this guy, you need to know, because Lee Rubin is an emerging voice. His unique ability to understand and articulate winning principles with tremendous clarity and practical application makes him a super highly sought after speaker and teacher. Lee is a frequent speaker and panelist at corporations, conferences, schools throughout the country. And I'm so grateful that he is willing here to share his expertise. Please help me welcome Lee Rubin. The crowd goes wild, Lee.
I can hear him. I hear him.
I'm
How
going to
are
get
you?
sound effects. I am feeling fantastic. Happy to be home, sweet home for once as a speaker. I used to
Sure.
love being on the road, and then now I love being home.
Yeah, yeah. I completely understand. I am actually in New Jersey myself before traveling in a couple days, so I am home as well.
Wow. Yes. And so, we met speaking at a conference together. It was so awesome to share a stage with such an amazing speaker. And when he says in his intro, clarity, I mean, there are many speakers that speak and they tell stories and they have so much information, but his speeches are so clear. I mean, I just really appreciate that, so that people really leave not just with a side dish, but with meat. So, can you just tell people how you got started as a professional speaker?
Sure. I think like most of us, I kind of fell into this. I didn't grow up saying I wanted to be a professional speaker. In fact, I didn't even know the career path existed. So just a little bit more about my background. Former captain of the Penn State football team, former HR professional, human resources professional. And as a former captain, especially here in the, I would be asked to speak frequently at different events, awards dinners, graduations, things like that. And the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it, the more I learned about it, and sort of moonlighted for a few years before taking the jump and doing this full time.
Wow. So just because you're like this famous football star, people are like, "Oh, we want to have him here." And you get on the microphone and then you're like, "Wait a minute. This is kind of cool.
Yeah, like
I like it."
I enjoyed it.
They
Yeah,
like me,
and
I like them. What about a career in this? So, how did you? Because I know being an HR professional and being in corporate America and going to be an entrepreneur and running your own speaking business is completely different. Uh, how
completely.
how did you know, or how did you learn and develop a speaking business?
That's been the biggest challenge. You. So I enjoyed speaking. Was very passionate about the speaking. So that became the fuel. You know, the passion is what drives you. The learning curve, and it's taken some time. It's taken years to learn how to run a speaking business. I often compare it to great cooks. You know, it's one thing to be a great cook. It's a
Right.
completely different thing to run a restaurant. And so it did. It took quite some time to learn how to run a speaking business. I would say um, speaking, actual being on stage, is probably 5% of what I do as a business
Exactly.
owner.
That's what I tell
Yeah,
everybody. I'm like, I'm
yeah,
glad you're a great speaker, and that will be like the smallest percentage of what you do having a speaking business.
absolutely, absolutely. So really, doing as much studying as I can, and reaching out to other entrepreneurs, regardless of the industry or regardless of their role, has been what sustained me and what's helped me grow. Reading as many books on entrepreneurship or running a business, or on prospecting, on running, building a website. All of those things are really what supports running a business. Speaking, as I mentioned, is just a small fraction of that. And if you don't do the business well, you don't get on many stages. Or even if you do get on many stages, you don't make enough money to sustain a business.
Yes, I'm so glad you say that because when people come up to me and they say, "Oh, I loved your speaking. I want to become a speaker." And in the back of my mind, I'm like, "Good luck with that." Because really it's very few people that have in Spanish, we say ganas, like in Hebrew, they say like hospa, that have like the
Yeah,
guts,
yeah,
that have the
yeah.
guts to do it, right? Because it takes courage because you're not just getting on the stage, you're selling yourself. I don't even like to say sell. I like to say we're serving, but the truth
Yep.
is we're selling. We're selling. And if you're not great at putting yourself out there and being bold, you're not going to get booked because the people that are paid on the stages aren't necessarily the best speakers. They're the best
Correct.
marketers. Would you agree?
Agree 100%. I learned something really early. Went to a conference by a gentleman named James, who was hosted by a gentleman named James Malinchek.
Oh, yeah, me
Um,
too.
Yeah, and he said you are not in the speaking business. You are in the business of marketing your speaking services. And so
Mm,
you can be the best speaker in the world if you do not know how to market and or sell it, you won't have a business. And he said the same is true with a pizzeria. You are not in the business of making pizzas. You're in the business of marketing your pizza making services. You could have the best pizza in the world. If no one knows about it, you don't sell pizzas, and you then you don't have a business. So that's when I learned quickly. Okay, let me learn how to run a business.
love it. And so, how did you, like, if you were going to give somebody a suggestion, what are some of the things they need to have to run a speaking business, need to have in place?
Sure, I would start with marketing. Okay, here's this product, here's this service. How do I market it? And everything that comes along with that. What is the product or service? What is my unique selling proposition? Who is my target audience? What are they willing to pay, if they're willing to pay at all? How should I price my product or service? That again, that has nothing to do with your ability to share a message on stage. It has everything to do with marketing and marketing a business. So I would start with marketing. I would then spend. Well, let's stop there. Because how do you let people know who you are? There's the outreach. There's, does my website articulate or communicate who I am and what I provide? Does it professional? Does does the quality of it look like the fees that I'm charging? Is that consistent? In other words, and just throwing out round numbers to keep it safe, if I am charging $5,000 for a speaking fee, does my website and my marketing materials, including my demo video, look like a $5,000 speaker? Because there has to be congruence there. There has to, as you'll say, there has to be alignment there. You,
Yes.
you know, you can't say you can't say I charge $10,000 and your website looks like you made it for $13. There's got to be congruence or alignment there. So the biggest piece for me has been marketing. I think that's just the best place to start, because again, if they don't know you and you don't communicate who you are and what you do and the value you add, well, you're not going to get booked.
And that's, I always say to people that come to me about speaking that clarity is cash. That until you know as an expert who you are, no one else will know. And you are not going to be able to communicate it on your sizzle reel or on your website. So the first step is
Correct.
really identifying who you are. What is your calling card? I say, what's your claim to fame? What do you want to be known for on the microphone? If somebody were
Sure.
to go into Google and press 4 words, how, what are they going to press to find you? So when you first
Sure.
started getting booked, so here you are, you have your great
Yep.
speaker, you're at all these places. How did you know how much to charge?
Well, let me take a step back
Sure.
because we skipped a critical step, which you suggested, but let me make sure that we discuss it. I spoke about anything for everyone when I first
Me
got started.
too. Me too.
Yeah, you want to talk? Hey, you want me to talk about trees? I'll talk about trees. You want me to talk about buses? I'll talk about buses. You
Me
want to
too.
talk about like I would, and it's because I was trying to find my voice. That's really the point I want to make. Who am I? What is my message? What message am I comfortable delivering? And what message resonates with people? And the only way to find that out is to speak and speak and speak. Um, and then what happens is once you find your voice, your message, the thing that works for you and the audience, then you start to place yourself in terms of the value of it, the potential clients, what other speakers with a similar message, um, with similar clients are charging. So charging a fee up front, I did that wasn't my experience. I just spoke anywhere for about anything for just about any amount. My first talk was a $50, I think it was a $50 gift certificate. I don't even think it was cash. But
Yeah, I
again, it was to help me. It was to find my voice, and I reached out to everyone I knew and said, "Hey, I'm looking to make this transition into a professional speaking role. If you have opportunities, consider me." And I just emailed everyone I knew, and one gig turned to two, two turned to four, four. It just grew exponentially.
I love that you said finding the voice because you're right. That is a critical step. And there's nothing wrong for people that are newer to go out there and speak and to do pro bono speech. I can't even tell you how many I did. I still want to do
Sure,
some.
sure.
Um, I have to stop myself, Deborah. I do not speak for free. I do not speak for free. Once in a while, I'll do one
Okay,
for a nonprofit, but when a for profit wants to do it, I have to say no. But in the beginning, that practice, because it gives you feedback of what audience also resonates with you, because it's not just what are you the expert at, what are you speaking on, but there's different
sure.
types of groups. There's association groups, there's colleges. I know Lee and I both don't speak to high schools. We're just not those kind of speakers. You have to
Sure.
also know who is your audience so that it's a good fit, because you need to enjoy it. Not only do you want to get paid
Absolutely.
for it, but if you're going to do all this shopping and getting on planes and going everywhere, you want to be able to feel good about it and not just do it for the money. I don't do anything for money. I do everything for purpose.
Exactly.
And
Yeah. Well, let's. Well, I'll be honest. That's the case now. Now that I found my voice, but at first I did, as I mentioned, I spoke about anything for just about anyone for just about any dollar amount, to find my voice, to find where I was, where I felt good and I felt energized, but also um, to help me capture as much video as possible. And if we can talk about video for a second, again, as a former athlete, I didn't just use video to market. I used video to correct and to assess and correct myself. I watch videos of myself speaking the same way I watch videos of myself playing.
uh,
You learn so much by seeing what the audience sees because you think it comes across a certain way. You think you're communicating a certain way, but I watch. I especially in the beginning, I watched my video like I was a college football player, right? Okay, how well did I use the stage? How good was my eye contact? Which jokes worked and which jokes didn't work? How was my timing? And I assessed myself and corrected myself by using the video. So I brought my video camera with me just about everywhere.
That is such great advice because I always tell people when it comes to social media marketing about course correcting. But in the beginning, to watch my videos was painful. I just
Absolutely.
I hated it, but you did it. That's such a great tool, everyone. And the questions that he asked, write those down. I mean, this is great information for you because you're not watching it to judge yourself. And I know you may not have this problem late, but I'm like, oh my God, my hair was like crazy that day. It was totally out of place. Or I don't like that outfit. But it's not to judge ourselves or to be critical of ourselves. It's to give ourselves feedback to improve, right? So that's the way you
It
want
is.
to look at
It is.
it.
It is. Well, I trust you. I'll be very transparent. There was a point where I saw some video of myself, and I was just too heavy. I was just carrying around too much weight. And here's what I thought. I'm talking about excellence. I'm talking about greatness. However, I don't look as great as my message. And again, there was a disconnect. There was incongruence. I never wanted how I was being perceived to interfere or disrupt the message. And so I went on a very aggressive campaign to make sure that my body and my presence was consistent and congruent with my message. So even to this day, I still watch those videos. I still try to put myself in the position of the audience and make sure that there's nothing interfering with them receiving the message.
Yeah, that is a good point. One of my coaches had said to me, somebody in the audience that was like a health coach, she says, your body is your brand. So does it
Yep.
represent what you want to represent as a leader? I was like, ooh, I was like, that hurt, but she's right. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
so
one of my
true.
favorite lines. I love that line. The first thing before you open your mouth, before you uh, share your content, they see you and they make an assessment and they make a judgment.
So just to review everyone, I'm going to professor mode. The key is marketing. So the key is marketing. Lee was talking about having a clear message on your website and in your sizzle reel. Second thing we're talking about now is branding. You need to represent and be the living, breathing manifestation of your brand. And that's not just what you say, it's who you are. And so watching your videos is a great way to course correct, not to judge yourself, but to improve. So let's talk
Yes.
about some of the ways that you book paid speaking engagements. What would you recommend for people that are new or seasoned to be able to book more, a good gigs?
Sure. Outreach, outreach, outreach. Do not expect people to find you. You go find people. If you think your message is valuable to a particular organization, corporation, association, you need to find them and make the introduction. For example, when I attend networking events, or I am on a plane, or I'm just at anywhere, um, and information is exchanged, I make sure that I grab their cards, their information. I don't want to put my future business into the hands of their memory, right? Will they contact me? Will they reach out to me? Did they think I was good enough to reach out to me? No. I want to control as much of it as I can because I'm proactive. It's my business. It's no one else's responsibility. So for as much as I can reach out to people and make the introduction and say, hey, I think I can add some value. I'd love to learn more about what you do, make sure there's a fit. But it's got to be proactive outreach. Do not sit and wait. Oh, I'm not getting any hits on my website. Like that's just not the way to build a business. Again, we go back to building a business, not speaking. But it's got to be aggressive, consistent outreach. And when I say consistent, I mean every single day. Who are you reaching out to today? that may be a good fit for you and your message. Make the introduction, learn more about who they are because you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. But it's got to be consistent. And the medium really depends on what works best for you. I send out a lot of cold emails. I make a lot of cold calls, phone calls. Um, and I really follow up aggressively on my referrals. So the point is you got to be aggressive and you got to be consistent.
Yes, I love it that you said about being proactive because there was a time, I think, well, definitely before September 11th. And then there was a time in the early, like 2002 to 2007, because it was a different algorithm on the Google website where I was just getting book gigs all from my website. And then and I relied on that, Lee. And I don't know if it was a competitor or it was just a malicious person. Somebody installed a virus on my website. So when people would go
Oh
onto it,
boy.
it would say, "Don't go. There's a malicious virus. Your computer could be attacked." And I didn't know that because I wasn't checking my website every week. And my speaking had just stopped. And I was so comfortable. I wasn't proactive. It was just like the phone was ringing. And I was doing, especially a lot of college stuff, just the college people were just knowing that I was around. And I had to get proactive. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And it was just like, it was. It was a rude awakening, and this is why as experts, as entrepreneurs, which is what we are as speakers, is we need to stay on top of the industry trends. And when things shift, whether it's an algorithm shift or when a social media shifts where it's no longer about Twitter and now everybody's on LinkedIn, we need to be aware of this because we have to go where our target market is. We can't assume that they know us. Until we're at the level of Oprah Winfrey or Les Brown, people do not know our name. And so we have to
Sure.
brand ourselves as what we want to be known for. I can't tell you, Lee, how many gigs I booked from the name Latina speaker, just because people were looking for a Latina speaker. They didn't know Deborah
Right.
Deras. They just knew they needed a spicy Latina, and I was like, okay. So all my YouTube videos are labeled and tagged Latina speaker, and Verizon hired me for a huge contract from that term. So it's really important, like Lee says, that we are discoverable, that people can find us, and that we go after it. So, what has been some of your lessons? Because I know there's been a lot of things that I'm like, I wish people would know this before they go out on the road. Is there anything that you wish you would have known?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I'll just share some of the lessons I have learned, whether the easy way or the hard way. Um, you've got to be where your potential clients are. So we mentioned social media. I was spending a lot of time learning as many of the platforms as possible: LinkedIn, uh, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, and right or wrong, I'm still trying to figure that out. Most of my potential clients, because of my audience, was more on LinkedIn than some of the others. So I one of my lessons is you've got to fish where the fish are. You've got to be where your potential clients are. So I've invested a more of my time or a larger percentage of my time on LinkedIn than other places. Now, again, if your target audience is more colleges or high schools, that may be different. But with a target audience of corporations and professional associations, I've spent more time sharing information about me. I've been more findable on LinkedIn than other places, and that's worked out really well for me. Um, that's been critical. What else can I share? Um, it's really all about relationships. Um, and meeting planners talk. Meeting planners know each other. They have great relationships. They're pretty networked throughout the country, And so spending as much time before and after my engagement, getting to know the meeting planner worked, what didn't work, how I could have done better, how I could have improved, not just my speech, but the relationship and administratively or operationally. Meeting planners love to work with easy to work with speakers. And so trying to streamline and perfect that process, both before and the follow up after a talk, is critical. So, really get to know your meeting planners. They really control quite a bit. Make sure you build strong relationships with your meeting planners.
Yeah, it's so important to not be that diva person because a lot of meeting planners are dealing with celebrities or pseudo internet celebrities. And if you're easy to work with, it could really stand out in their mind. And relationships are key. I try to always get together with meeting planners if I'm like in a town that they're in. After
Sure.
I did that gig that we had, I had dinner with one of the meeting planners from another gig, and they already booked me back for November. So sorry, I have to go back to Fort Lauderdale. I'm so sad about that. my,
Poor,
my,
poor,
my,
poor
fa-
baby.
my,
Yeah.
my favorite place. I love it. I focus my speaking on South Florida because I love the beach and I love the ocean. And what's wrong with that? When I first started speaking, I was always in nothing wrong with other middle towns, but I wanted to be where the salsa music was. Hey, the speaking business is a lifestyle, and Lee will agree with me. It is not an easy lifestyle. Living out of suitcases, running through airports, eating like what you can get from your seatmate on the Southwest flight. You know what I mean? It's not an easy life. You really have to love it, and you really have to have, I believe, like a burning desire to really move people. It's just
Absolutely.
yeah, I see speakers that speak to speak, and I see speakers that speak to transform, and it's a different experience. And I know that that's what you're about. You really care, Lee. You care about your audience. You're not just there to deliver a speech and then leave. You really want to see the results within the organization, and I think that's one of the reasons that you're so booked out. So, what are just any last piece of advice for people that are new or people that need to ignite their speaking business? Like anything that you would
Sure.
recommend that they do
Sure.
differently?
So this may be broad, but I think it's relevant and pertinent. Be honest with yourself. Um, there are speakers who do this. I made the leap to do this full time to have this be my primary source of income. There's some people who enjoy what they do, sort of in their 9 to 5, their real life, who have great messages to share. But the reality is, they're not equipped or in a position where they can do it full time. Be honest with yourself about that. Like, there's nothing wrong with this being sort of a side gig or a side hustle, so to speak. There's nothing wrong. That doesn't make you any less of a speaker, because of all the challenges that come with running this as a full time business. I think being very, very honest with yourself about who you are and what you want, and whether or not this is going to work within your lifestyle or be your lifestyle, is critical. I talk to a lot of young people who say, I want to do what you do. Well, you need to know everything first, and then you need to be honest with yourself for whether or not this is really for you and where you are. I'll be very honest. I waited 15, almost 20 years before I raised my family. I could not do what I'm doing now, the amount of time I spend on the road having a young family. I just wanted to be present. And that's just a sacrifice that I wanted to make for my family. I didn't do it until now because I didn't want to bless and enrich the lives of other people, and have my children say, "Where's
Right,
dad?" Um,
right.
so, so I think we've got to be really honest and transparent with ourselves about where we are and if this is going to work for the entire picture.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because I had somebody that come to me, a father with two young boys, and he's like, "I just want to get on the road." I'm like, "Really? You want to leave your babies? Because it's yeah, you're gone I mean, 80% of the time, if you're really out there speaking. And I love how you gave people an alternative because it's not all or nothing. It could
Right.
definitely be something that you do as a second, very lucrative stream of income,
Sure.
and know what your lifestyle, what you want your lifestyle to be. That's so very, very important. So let's talk about some of your upcoming events, programs. Where can people find you? Where can people experience you? Where can people book you as a paid speaker?
Sure. Sure. Well, I'm excited. I've got a couple really exciting things coming up, and don't be mad at me. Um, I am going to be in Las Vegas next week.
What?
Uh, Las Vegas for a couple days, and then don't tell anyone. I'll be in Miami for a couple
What?
days.
What? What? Where?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah,
I'm more jealous about Miami
yeah.
than Vegas.
Well, that's why I tried to set it up for you because you've
Okay.
heard it's bad.
Okay.
But going back to Miami, and then as if it got any worse, I'm going to be in Miami and then go to Bermuda for a
Wow. Suffering.
human resource conference. Yeah, you know what? Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah,
Somebody has
somebody's
to
got
do
to
it.
do it, and you should be the one. You should be the one.
I'm the one.
Bermuda.
Yeah,
So, Lee is
I
an
will.
international
I
speaker.
will take one for the team. I will
Yeah,
take one for the team.
do it, do it.
Yep. But really excited, and let's just take a quick step back. Um, all three of those engagements came by different channels that we've already talked about. One of them was pure outreach, pure cold emails, just sending out emails on a consistent basis. Another one of those came as a referral from a meeting planner who had heard me elsewhere. So, um, what we call spinoff business or referral business. Someone hears you in one place and either refers you or requests you elsewhere. And the third one is just from, and this event is working with someone who I did some almost free, enough to cover gas money, but unpaid events that I just thought would be helpful. And then something really big popped up. He had heard me speak a few times and said, "Lee, we want you as a part of this." So again, there's not just one way to do it. You've got to proactively put yourself out there. So three different channels, three different marketing or prospecting channels, three different events in the next couple weeks.
And that's a really good point because I did a podcast last week and the speaker said that she calls those unpaid ones promotional ones because you do
Yeah,
want to say yes to events that the audience members can all potentially hire you because then it could lead to your Bermuda gig or your Miami gig.
absolutely,
Sometimes
absolutely.
it's important, uh, and you have to determine, can these people that are listening to me hire me in the future? And if they can, it's worth it to do that promotional activity because then it can lead to a paid gig. Because I believe the best way that people can hire you to speak is to see you live. It's not going to be the
Absolutely.
video, it's not going to be the email, it's experiencing you. That's the best way. And if you're always speaking to HR people, then HR people can hire you at their companies in addition to organizations, associations. It's a great market because you're triple marketing, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So to find me, the best place is always directly on my website, LeeRubinSpeaks.com. And Rubin is spelled Rubin. So LeeRubinSpeaks.com. I would be very comfortable pointing people to my LinkedIn page, and that's Lee Rubin. So Lee Rubin keynote speaker is the best way to find me. I do have a presence on Instagram and Twitter, and both of those tags. The tag for both of those platforms is L Rubin 39, LRUBIN 39.
Why are you trying to tell your age, Finn?
No, I'm trying to tell. Nope, trying to tell my jersey number in conversation.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. All right. Okay. So, and definitely follow him on all of those places and I will put your website in the show notes. So just in case anybody's driving, listening to this, they'll be able to access it. Follow and learn, my friends, and also refer. You're going to, once you go to his website and see his sizzle reel, you're going to see how fantastic he is and want to refer him or bring him into your company because we believe with the power of synergy, what? Anything is possible. So thank you, Lee. I really appreciate your time. I know how busy you are. And I just felt that our conversation that we had was so valuable to me. And I always want to pay it forward and share you with my community. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And
My pleasure.
I want to thank you all for tuning in. If this show was awesome sauce, don't forget the sauce. Make sure you go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. Why not? Sharing is caring. When you let other people know about this show, then everyone can be messengers for the message. They can get out there. And if you would like to learn more about how you can be a paid speaker, you could go to my website at beapaidspeakernow.com. Thank you so much. Ciao. If you would like to grab my free ebook on how to be a confident speaker, go to www.deborahderas.com/speak now. And remember, you are the messenger for the message. See you next week.